I would like to speak about why I do the things I do, for lack of a better video title. Now, that is engrossing of, I guess, all of my activities. So, one of the reasons behind my choosing to upload as much as I do is based off the idea that there are so many important things that are going on or that have gone on in the past that either are not being spoken about to the extent that I like, or if they are, there's a certain viewpoint that I feel isn't being advocated for by most commentators, be they, I don't know, famous or just somewhat notable. Um, and I guess that's translated over to my other activities. When I try to write a novel, I'll typically seek to put some rough draft out in a couple of weeks, um, based off of the viewpoint that I don't know what could happen in the next, several years. People oftentimes will tell someone if they're of a certain age, whether it's 10 or 20 or 30, you're young, you have this time to do this time to do that. And I think one of the problems that we've seen with many people that either are my age or higher or whatever is that they think there is this pool of time to just keep putting things off. And I'll admit there are some things in which I'm still not completely satisfied with in terms of my lack of knowledge of, be it something relating to learning about a historical event, or just some various function. And even though I can at times still put those off, I have within the last year or so started to move toward learning about some of those things. There are things I feel I learned last year, and even in the couple of the 12 days of this year that I didn't know so long ago, or a very short time ago. And going back to the point I made about people thinking they'll live forever, if you asked most individuals, do you think you have plenty of time, or do you think you're going to live forever, they would probably say no, or beat around the bush. Um, and that's not to their detriment, but it is to suggest that people wouldn't engage in the activities that they do if they didn't feel there was a lack of time to beat around and waste around or waste. In my own experiences, I've seen many of men, many of women, just both sexes, that will go around, date a bunch of people, hang out, go all these different events, and that's fine to do, and it's something I've done in the past with a select few people. But the overriding point is that it's not conducive to actually producing anything. I had a guy I spoke to not so long ago, about maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks ago, and me and him started talking about the problems with education, with what we felt were important topics that needed to be covered in schools that I only learned as a result of the internet. And it was one of the most productive conversations I've had in years with someone that was, not working at a company or forced to tell me information. It was just a person who shared my viewpoints, but that also had ideas for which I had not thought of before. And really, those are the worthwhile interactions that I feel people have, and it actually moves someone's in a direction that is right, or otherwise impactful in a good way toward the people around them. And really, that's what I've tried to do with much of my content. Even if it gets 10, 30, however many views, it's still out there. It's still something a person could click on, try to learn something about a topic they might not have thought about before. And if they come away with at least knowing a little bit more, then I guess mission accomplished. Um, but there was one question that was posed to me a while ago about, do you feel different from others? And in some aspects, yes. In some aspects, no. I've sat around with many of my contemporaries and been uh, dazzled at the same things, whether it's a movie or a certain person of the opposite sex. Just there are many things that I feel I'm connected with other people on, and even if we aren't, it still creates the safe sphere for diversity, where you do have individuals that know math, or someone that knows science, and you're the guy who's knowledgeable of history, and you guys come together and just start, spouting off all these different things. You all try to take some basic level of interest in what the other person's talking about. And really, I've always loved the idea that people, if committed to something and actually serious about getting it done, can get it done. I knew I want to use myself as an example, but there was a day where I just got tired of not being able to understand much of the political discourse that was going on around me, and I turned on the computer and just started reading things, and I guess I was impacted by that. But there are those who've chosen to build homes, who've chosen to go out and seek some profession and commit time to doing it and come out knowing more and obviously much more knowledgeable of the topic than when they started. And that's something I feel I've done on YouTube with the various discussions I've had, whether it's about the people I know or about current events. And I guess I could say the channel's sort of that way too. It's a place for diversity. You have discussions of human interactions that have been, seen somehow as generalizing when they're not. They're based off of particular individuals. So the people who don't do this shouldn't take offense, but sometimes that happens as well. And I would probably take much more offense were I not convinced in what I'm saying. I wish I could sometimes just make up a story. Oh yes, this person did this, and then go and laugh to myself, oh, it was all false. But there are some behavior patterns that I've found so just out of this world that I have chosen to speak about. And there are those who have doubted those claims, and that's fine. But when you are as invested in what you're trying to convey as I have been in the past, you don't allow it to change your views or switch up your mind. You consider things that someone will say, but there's usually this defensive wall that does not break you from your core beliefs, and you feel as though you have been produced into a certain way because you started out with one perspective and then moved either completely to the opposite side or something to that effect. I was very much a believer of the two-party system when I started reading everything historical, and then I'd say over the last 2 years is when I switched my views after spending some time looking at the hypocrisy of members of both parties, and it just moved me in a very different direction I've been in the past. So I just figured that's part of the reason here. So I'm not going to drag this on. I hope this has proven some inquiry into my viewpoints. I've tried.